All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Velero community meeting for August 18th, 2020. We're going to get some status updates. We have some discussion topics and some contributor shoutouts. So to start our status updates, we will go with Ashish.
I don't have very much to mention in status updates. I was basically preparing for 1.5 release, trying to address any outstanding items that we have and doc fixes and PR reviews. I know I owe Andrew another round of review on the exec restore hooks. I'm going to do that today. And then during the investigation of an issue that was opened, I found an opportunity to improve our documentation, and I added some documentation around setting up a standalone MinIO instance with custom CS cert and HTTPS. So if folks have questions or would like to refer that, please do. And if you find any inconsistencies in my documentation, please point it out or fix it, help us fix it. So that's all.
Okay, for myself, I'm trying to get the delete item actions moved forward. Need to fix some review comments on 2808, which is just getting the plugin type implemented, and then move forward on 2815, which is actually getting it invoked. That's in draft, and right now all it does is say, hey, there's no plugins, so go forward with the old and current behavior. Also been looking at reviews and issues. I was on community support last week, and later today I'll be reviewing the release process with Abbie. She has some documentation on the release process that she wanted to go over with me, especially in light of the 1.5 beta release that we're going to try to get out later this week. So I think those are my main things. So any questions? I guess we skipped over questions for Ashish. Okay, Carlisia?
I think Carlisia might be having some audio issues. No one looks like from the chat.
Oh, I lost my chat. Still no sound for Carlisia. Oh no. Okay, so Carlisia is on community support this week. Oh,
Carlisia is trying to speak, I suppose.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
You sound very
faint, but I
faint.
can hear you.
Yeah.
All right. How about now?
Better.
Yep.
A little bit. Turn it up a little more.
All right. So I missed everything up to now.
Lots of words like me too, and it just gets really annoying at sometimes. Oh yeah, and also a blocked number, so you can't code.
I don't think you guys can hear me. Can you?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I can hear you.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know what happens. Anyway, I'm on community support this week. Had a lot of PR reviews last week, and I'm still working on the server status request migration. If you're asking why I am too, no, I'm trying to. So the code from the CLI that had to ping the server, I did it 5 different ways depending on who was helping me, and I think I don't think it finally got to a final version of it, which uses the API machinery library to just wait. I pushed what I have. I'm just finalizing the controller tests. That's it from me.
Anything we can do to help out, Carlisia?
Did the change from the informers to the client listener? Okay.
Can't hear it again.
Oh, I was just asking if you needed any help with that stuff that you had issues with. And Nolan also had a question. She probably cannot still hear us. Okay, I think I can.
All right,
We can
I
follow
think
up
I'll
with
move on.
Carlisia.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I worked with Carlisia a little bit on this last week. And I know we made some changes, but I don't know if those helped or not. Okay. We'll move on to the discussion topics for now. Carlisia, if you need help, please feel free to ping us. So next, Phuong, if you would like to ask your questions.
Oh, yeah, so I want to share one of the problems that we have in our backup work, and I wonder if we can enhance our Velero backup to support us. So here's the problem that we backup when we backup a namespace, we also want to backup the cluster resource. However, when we enable the cluster resource, we found that some persistent volume that is not currently used by that namespace is also being backed up together with it. And that's what we do not want. We just want to have to back up the persistent volume and the persistent claim that belong to the current namespace that we are backed up. So we are wondering if we can, when we turn on the include cluster resource, should we somehow enable us to not include in that backup the persistent volumes? I saw the suggestion of using exclude resources. We tried that one too. I think when we turn on that persistent volume, the problem with that is we also exclude the persistent volume that being used with the PVC that we are backing up. So that is not exactly what we want. So I wonder if we can enhance our Velero backup to support such scenario.
So to clarify your question, you want persistent volumes that are referenced by persistent volume claims in the namespace, your namespace or namespaces you're targeting?
Yes, but
okay.
not just all the other persistent volume, because persistent volume is actually a cluster resource.
Right. I know. Yeah. So you can omit include cluster resources. So include cluster resources, what that does is that includes all cluster resources, whether they're referenced by a namespace object or not. If you leave off include cluster resources, so if you just say Velero backup -- include namespaces namespace 1, that there's actually some Velero plugins that walk from a pod to the PVC to the PV and include those as additional items. So it will get referenced objects for you, and you don't have to use include cluster resources.
But we do want to back up some of the cluster resource. For example, the cluster binding, cluster role binding, and stuff like that.
Okay.
We still want to back up some of these cluster-wise resources.
So you want cluster-wide resources, but you don't. You want some, but you don't want all.
We want some, but we don't want the persistent volume.
Okay.
What the persistent volume from our point of view is somewhat a little bit twisted, because it should not belong to the cluster wide thing. It should be
right, but you want to scope it.
Yeah. So that is something that I would, that's a difficulty that we currently face right now. We have a workaround which is really twisted, but we don't want to. I think we want to have like a straightforward solution using Velero instead of work around it. Like for example, one idea that we have is we just saying let's just first back up just the cluster resource, and then another time we back up everything else. And that kind of a little bit hacky from my point of view, but I wonder if we can do something like a flag or some option that when we do include cluster resource, we can turn on and turn off some of the specific type of cluster resource that we want or don't want. So I'm just bringing out the idea here to see if we can do something like that. I can dig into the code and make some proposal on the specifics, but I wonder I should throw out the idea here to see if you guys have any, suggestion or any other way around it.
I have a feeling that this would make the resource selection super complex. Wouldn't it be easier just to say include resources and say cluster role bindings instead? Like call out the resource type specifically that you want to include in the backup. That way, you know what exactly you expect in the backup.
You're saying that currently the include cluster resource is a Boolean, right? So it turn on and off. So instead of doing that as a Boolean, we can specify it as like an array of specific type that you want to use. Was that am I understand your idea correctly or your comment correctly?
No, I was just saying include resources should just include resources. If you say cluster role bindings and cluster roles, you should get what you want, and instead of trying.
So instead of using the include cluster resource, using the include resource.
Yeah.
I think I have to double check, but I think I tried that before.
Okay.
If I put that in, for example, if I put the cluster role, the resource type that we want in the including resource, but I do not turn on. If I don't turn on the flag include cluster resource, that will not work. So maybe that's a very good idea. If we can the include resource, that would work, without the include cluster resource flag. I think that would be a best way to tackle this.
And right now, as it exists right now, include resources has to be an exhaustive list. So the downside there is you have to list every single resource that you would want.
Which might not be a good idea for my case.
Yeah, right. If you've got arbitrary CRDs and stuff in there, that's limiting. And something I wrote here is, I think we have an issue here, but I don't want to take the time to look for it at the moment. Right now, Velero's every selection flag you add is anded together. So it further refines. It's not an or. So you can't say, I want include namespaces or this. It's all anded. So we were really at some point would like to get or selection and when I say selector here, I don't mean Kubernetes selector. I mean like Velero selection. Excuse me, but like she says, it complicates the selection logic. But I think in some cases, the selection logic we want is complicated. So yeah, because in this scenario, it's like we want all cluster resources except for persistent
Something like that.
volumes,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
pointed to by a PVC in a namespace that is included in a namespace. Yeah, like that one's
it's already got way
complicated.
too long.
Yeah. Like I don't know how to express that verboten.
No.
Well,
It's actually
I think a little less complicated might be, I don't want cluster resources claimed by other namespaces.
Yeah, like putting knots in for it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I think a
Yes.
proposal for this would be useful. I certainly wouldn't say no to it.
Yeah, let me dig out a little bit more, and I create like a proposal design into, and then I'm gonna propose to maybe next time we meet. But I just want to bring out here, yeah, we can use something like a label to select all the items that we want, and we specify the label in our backup. But the problem is that is we still have, you know, some customer might we have to label it. And the customer may not have that, you know, may not have the label on some of the items. So, but anyway, I think I'm gonna go back and do some design and propose to you guys maybe next time.
Yeah, and with PVs and PVCs, like even if you label the PVC, Kubernetes does not automatically transfer it to the PV. And there's a lot of reasons I've heard in SIG storage for why it doesn't do that. So I wouldn't hold your breath for that ever happening.
Yep.
So you can put a label on there, but again, then you have to like go put the label on there. So that just moves the problem from Velero to something else.
And the problem with this is that we don't want the customer to have to do manually do anything, right?
Sure.
When they touch the system, they touch the PV level and so on and so forth, we start to convert them into like a different role instead of just a user of the system.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I will work on it, and I will propose this something next time. Okay.
And just to finish on that, doesn't the exclude to say include cluster resources and say exclude resources persistent volumes, does that not work? I'm just curious.
You saying that
your
exclude,
suggestion
but
there.
Oh no, that doesn't work for us because we do want to include some persistent volume that we are interested in.
Yeah, so that's when the walk from PVC to PV happens, the PVs that are actually used do get backed up, no?
No, it got excluded as well. If that flag turned on, it got excluded. All the PV got excluded.
Even with the additional items from the
Let me double check. Let me do some more double checks on what we have tested so far. But I think we did include that. We do have that. We do have tests on the exclude persistent volume.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't remember if additional items returned from plugins ignore this.
Yeah, I think we do the filtering, and then everything that the plugins return just gets backed up. So that might work for you. It's worth trying out.
Thank you.
Sure.
Stephanie, you have an item for Velero 1.6 release planning.
I do. Thanks, Nolan. So we'll be starting the 1.6 release planning for Velero following the 1.5 beta release date, which is hopefully heading into the end of this week. That way it gives the team some time to wrap up the beta and also gives us time to look at the 1.6 priorities. We'll be looking at 1.6 from a lot of different angles, like upstream Kubernetes alignment, bug fixes, community asks in the PRs, and a couple of additional pipelines that you'll see identified on our roadmap. And anything coming out of the 1.6 release planning, we will provide some details on what that stack rank looks like in the community meeting following that release plan. So sometime around the, I guess, September 1st timeframe for our meeting, and we'll share that then. We'll also reflect that on ZenHub so that everyone can see the prioritized list. We'll also triage that on the Git issues. And you'll start seeing things appear on Git with a 1.6 label. We'll also provide any roadmap updates around the September 1st timeframe to the group as well. So Nolan, that's just kind of September 1st, then the GitHub roadmap. Thanks.
Cool.
Well, I guess I should say also, I would like to encourage the community, since you have kind of the time frame that we're heading into our 1.6 release planning, since we're going to be doing that next week and sharing a lot of that on September 1st. Between now and then, that gives you about 2 weeks to go ahead and upvote any issues that you're really interested in seeing included in that release. We included that capability a couple of months back. I'm going to use that to kind of get a temperature gauge from y'all as far as what you're interested in, and any PRs that you're really interested in seeing for the 1.6 release as well. If you haven't gotten them in, we'd love to see them also. Thanks for taking the notes, Nolan.
Yep. And, okay. All right. And then finally, we've got this standing issue. I can take it. Carlisia, you can take it. I don't mind either way.
I can take it. Just please click on it, Nolan. So we are making a point in letting people know that if you use Velero as a library and you are using a package that is not one of these packages listed here, please let us know, because otherwise we intend on making code that's not in one of those packages inaccessible by moving them to an internal directory structure. So we just want to make sure we don't break anything for anyone. Just leave a comments here on this issue.
Okay. Any more discussion topics?
Not much of a discussion topic, but some sort of an announcement. I think we mentioned this last week as well, that we are planning to have Velero office hours. So just a teaser for that. Stay tuned for more updates around when we will, about exact dates and timings.
All right, so moving on to contributor shoutouts. Last week we got a note into our documentation about Windows support with Velero. This was actually some testing that Steve had done. So this is now in our docs. very short note that don't really officially support it. We can back up some stateless Windows applications, but RESTic integration and backups of persistent applications and persistent volumes are not supported. So thank you, Abbie, for adding that. This next one was from Run Zexia, which was adding a kind for helper to our discovery helper. And this was to enhance their Helm backup plugin. And this is something that other plugins can take advantage of. So this is super helpful. So thank you for doing that. And then the rest of these are all in the Helm chart. One that is super helpful is Genting updating the Velero version to version 1.4.2. Super helpful. Genting also, I'm just going to do Gentings together. Genting updated pull request and issue templates so that when making an issue or doing a pull request, they have a template that you can fill out that helps us review things. There's also some updates to custom CA support in the Helm chart that Genting took care of. So thank you very much for all those contributions. And then finally, Carlos Panato updated some GitHub pages stuff to make sure that the README and links all worked, and updated our GitHub actions to use the latest releases of the testing actions. So thank you very much to all those contributors. And we've got a bunch more community contributors lined up that I'm sure we will get them shouted out next week. So any other topics before we wrap up this week? Otherwise, it looks like a short meeting. All right, I'll give folks about 29 minutes back and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.